What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Engine House. I'm your host, Cody, and if this is your first time, welcome. Grab some coffee, pull up a chair. Before we jump in, I just have a couple quick things that I have to talk about. The first is that this podcast is brought to you by Engine House Designs. That's my company. We specialize in custom apparel, whether it's hats, hoodies, jackets. Those can be embroidered or printed. We can also do patches, decals, flags. If we need, we can help you solve some of your ordering problems by hosting a custom online store for either your department or your station. We do all of this to help ignite the pride in firemen across the nation. So check us out at enginehousedesigns.com, or you can hit us up on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube. We are at Engine House Designs on pretty much all platforms. I also want to thank the Kitchen Table Foundation for sponsoring this episode. They're our newest sponsor, and it'd be really cool if you check them out and support them. The Kitchen Table envisions a national community in which every first responder is recognized, supported, and empowered, where connection overcomes isolation, and where the enduring values of service, sacrifice, and solidarity are upheld through every season of the job and beyond. They exist to strengthen the brotherhood and sisterhood of the fire service, police, and EMS. They provide a place for first responders to gather, break bread, and find connection through camaraderie and shared experiences. They're rooted in tradition, built on trust, and driven by service. They aim to uphold the mental and emotional well-being of those who run towards the call, not away. Check them out at thekitchentablefoundation.org. Also, if you'd like to recommend a guest, if you'd like to be a guest, maybe you have some ideas or questions, you can feel free to reach out to me at enginehousepodcast@gmail.com. All right, now that we've got all of that out of the way, let's get started. I have a pretty awesome guest with me today. He's got quite a few years on the job, so he's been around the block. He can enlighten us with his wisdom today. He's seen fire service on the East Coast and the West Coast, so he's got a pretty broad perspective. So without further ado, let's get started with our first segment called the Size Up. The point of this is whenever a new person walks into your firehouse, the first thing you do is you size them up. So I need to know your name, how many years of service you have, and what your current role or assignment is, and then anything else you want the audience to know, throw it out there. The floor is yours, brother.
All right, brother. Well, listen, thank you for having me on your show. My name's Steve Orsini. I have 19 years, 20 years, January 26th, so about a month away to hit my 20. Nowhere close to retiring. Right now, I'm captain of a regional training academy here in the state of Arizona. And I'll tell you what, I fucking love this job. I started in the Baltimore region, ended up out west for my ex-wife, since we all know how that worked out. Found a much better one. But I'll tell you what, love the fucking job, love talking about it. And like what Cody was saying in the promo, dude, ignite the passion. This dude's got it. And if you ever need any sort of apparel, no joke, I literally own his shit. So he's a man, fucking go to him for sure. I know that's an extra little plug, but again, he's a fucking man. And again, works for one of the fucking greatest cities in the American Fire Service. And I fucking love all those boys over there. So thank you, my brother, for having me on.
Yeah, no, dude, the pleasure's all mine. I appreciate it. We met in Corinth, Mississippi at the old South Pools Fire Conference. And a mutual friend of ours, Cody Miller, who's been on your podcast multiple times, he was like, hey, man, you got to find this guy. When you walk up to him, you got to kiss him on the mouth, which for the record did not happen. But
it did not, right.
You know, that was my first conference actually ever being a vendor. So I kind of didn't know what to expect. I was kind of nervous. And here I am, like, this big podcaster walks up to my table and starts buying my stuff. So it was kind of surreal. You know, I'm like, oh, man.
That's it. Yeah, but dude, you're right. It was a blast. We met in Mississippi. And like I said, your boy, Cody Miller, he's, like I said, having him on the podcast. I was honored to have him on my podcast because of the call he went through, but it was cool because he's the first guy from Memphis I had ever met. And then it's kind of been the snowball effect. And I feel like I was meant to be a Memphis fireman. I just didn't realize it or whatever. But like you said, but in all reality, I fucking love you boys, and you do solid work, and you get good jobs. But again, as soon as we connected, we hit it off. And again, your merchandise is amazing. You're a true fireman. We talked a bunch of fellowship nights too during Mississippi. But let's fucking spit some fireman shit and talk about what do you want to direct towards? We're talking about search, or what do you want to do?
Yeah. So this episode is going to be a watch desk episode. For those of you that don't know, I'm trying something new. There's going to be 4 different types of shows, and this one is going to be the watch desk. The point of this is to discuss fire-related articles. So pros, cons. If we have differing opinions, we can debate about it. But today's article is actually about something that happened in Hawaii. And there were some firefighters that ended up losing their life, ultimately due to various different aspects, but the main point being that they decided to perform an unprotected search. So I shared the article with you so you could kind of read over it. You'd already read it. So I just kind of wanted to talk about that. Like I said, the main topic of that was the unprotected search, which for those of you that may have never heard of that before, that's searching without the protection of a handline. So, I mean, initially, what were your thoughts when you read this article?
Well, I'll tell you what. First of all, before we get into anything, like my heart goes out to the boys in Hawaii for sure, and their line of duty loss. That's undescribable emotions. And anything I say, please don't take it as a Monday morning quarterback, because I would never do that. So with all that out of the way, as soon as I read the article, my heart dropped for 2 different reasons. First, mourning for the boys, but the part that hurt the most was literally inside my soul said shit, because articles like that is what a lot of guys will hang their hat on when we start talking about the benefits of unprotected search, which I agree on, and I'll expand on in a little bit here, but the benefits of it. And then they're going to hang their hat on an article of fucking one of our brothers that lost his life during an unprotected search, but had nothing to do with the tactic. But unfortunately, as soon as I read that and it was sent to me, God, I can't even count how many times, because that's one of my things. Search and ladder work is my jam. So and I'm like, I already know across the American Fire Service, there's going to be some guys that will hold that going. See, I told you that's an unsafe tactic, because we talk about that all the time. So let's get into that unprotected search, just kind of on the basics. It is the safest method out there when we start talking about rapid interjection of our firemen into a structure to look for savable lives. But more importantly, guys forget all the time, the sea of the fucking fire. That's really why we're there, because as soon as we take the fire away, everything gets better for everybody. So there's a couple things, and I don't want to speak anything on our brothers from Hawaii, but from what I read and what I comprehend, there is a snowball effect of the tactic at the wrong time and the training associated, because these are also very young members in the American Fire Service. So, and it trickles all the way across. These are tactics that we teach brand new recruit firemen currently right now, with the caveat of this is the introduction to the steps of why you understand how to perform the tactic if you're asked. But again, if you're asked to do it, it's going to be under the command of hopefully a senior suppression officer, or at least at bare minimum, a senior fireman or a senior engineer, something along those lines. Cody, I don't know how you feel about that, brother.
Yeah, no, I wholeheartedly agree. And and I like how you said that, because we do preach about, if the pumper's not there, you need to go in and search. That's what we're here for. We're here to find the fire, put the fire out, life safety. Those are probably our 3 top priorities on every fire. And, you're saying now with this happening, what you're saying is there's going to be a lot more people out there that say, well, we can't do that. we can't do that because these people died doing it, you know. And that's in my last episode. I made the point that all too often these days we tell people, this is how you do this, and you do this way, and because that's how that person was taught. And a lot of times they're, you know, vomiting up what they were told in the past, and so they know one way, and they don't have a lot of experience to match it or back that up. But the truth is that it, like I said in that last episode too, is everything you do should be based off of experience and tactical decision. And that one was actually about focusing your aggressiveness based on tenable spaces and your experience in building construction, fire behavior, all of that. So again, I'm not saying that these guys messed up and made the wrong decision, but like you said, I'm just backing that up where we can still do this. We do need to still do this. We need to still learn this tactic, but it needs to be reiterated and pounded into people's head that you have to have a size up. You have to lose the tunnel vision. You have to focus on the broader aspect and know that this could go bad and what those signs are of it going bad, so you can safely perform this. Because I'm not a big supporter of the whole we put ourselves first and then them. Like a lot of there was a whole narrative when I was coming up through the fire service where we were transitioning from completely selfless service to, well, if I get hurt, then I can't help anyone, so I need to worry about my safety. There is some truth to that. If I go all haywire and do some cowboy shit and I end up getting myself killed before I can hurt anybody or help anybody, then yeah, I'm not doing any good. But also, this job is inherently dangerous, and these people are expecting me to put my life on the line to help them if the risk outweighs, or if the benefit outweighs the risk.
Yeah, I don't even think if the benefit outweighs the risk. I think if every risk is telling you no, the public still expects you to make entry, and I wholeheartedly believe that we should, because
right.
Again, that's the people that we should be recruiting. So to kind of go back on topic, though, it proves the point why I always say we don't live in black and white in the American Fire Service. We live in the gray. There's not a always and never, period, the end, no matter what it is. I wish there was some always and nevers, but there's not. And that's half the thing that makes our job great. Now, when I teach this tactic, right, when we start talking about targeted search, then enter isolate search, searching in front of the hose line, canned confidence, things along those lines, it is always preemptive of this is not for every fire, because nothing we do is for every fire. You know, it is the goal is that we have a slideshow in our brains of a shit ton of fucking training outside of the academy, like that starts our basic, and then we just add to that toolbox. And then at that point, depending on that call, that night, that setback, that house, that time of year, take all that shit into consideration. Hopefully I have a slide that I can boom, pull out and say, shit, I haven't been here before, but I've been to something similar. Let's go with plan A. And then shit, we're good in this profession of pivoting, right? Plan A ain't working, plan B, let's go. Know that plan C. But guess what? At the end of the call, we have a brand new slide. So we got better. So it's one of those things where here's the deal is if our brothers had passed away in the line of duty going through the front door, nothing would have been said as big as it was because it was an unprotected search. So how many firemen die going through the front door? I'll even give you a better caveat. How many firemen die because of cardiac related issues, right? But we're not blasting articles about not eating all those donuts, you know? And so it's one of those things where it's just, I hate to say like everything in moderation, but again, we have to be trained in every modality, every aspect of this job, but more importantly, drill on it to be proficient so we can utilize it on the job. And again, I wasn't there. I was not there. I wasn't on that call. I can't justify or unjustify what they did. But again, they chose an option with limited experience and limited knowledge and didn't work out for them. So all we can do at this point is just learn what happened, right? And then kind of move forward from there. But it's like, And I feel like guys will use articles like this to, again, I don't want to say dumb down, but the safety police come out and be like, hey, well, is this inherent risk worth it? The answer should always be yes.
Absolutely.
If we are on the job, thank you. I know every single person on the job, especially career, volunteer, right? You don't have to stand up on stage in front of a judge or a fucking priest and say, hey, I am going to swear to protect the public, period, right. The end. It doesn't matter their race, their religion, how old they are, how young they are, right? What city you live in, it doesn't matter. We all raised our hand and said the same fucking thing. It doesn't matter, right? We should do everything we can to make their opportunity to live, or at least preserve them for another couple weeks so family can get a goodbye. That is our goddamn job. And I challenge anyone across the country, number one in your mission statement, no matter what department you work from East Coast to West Coast, is life safety, period, the end, number one. That is why we're here. If there wasn't that, then none of us would have a fucking job, or we could get replaced by robots, right? Medical, that's the majority who gives it, but it is our job when everything comes down to it, is what those boys were trying to do. They were trying to make an effective search. It didn't work out for them. God bless them, right? But Absolutely. Let's learn something from them and not negate or neglect our search culture across the country because of one isolated incident.
Well, and, to your point, when they first arrived, they had light, smoke, and visibility. And that's
correct.
That's a bread and butter house fire. That might even be a can job, depending on what you find when you get there,
100%.
So, and it wasn't until they opened up, the fire was contained to the kitchen, and it wasn't until that kitchen door got booted open, that's when, conditions rapidly changed. So how do you even predict that? You don't.
You can't.
Right. So, I mean, it just, for anyone who wants to sit around and say that, the decisions that they made were wrong or anything like that, like you said, we can't even quarterback this because we weren't there, but those guys didn't even know that was going to happen. It's not like they went in with horribly described conditions. They went in with perfect conditions to perform this search protocol, and it just happened to catch them.
Yeah, and I think the nuance of the article was, it was like in quotations, this new tactic or I can't remember how they worded it, but they made it sound like it was a very new thing for that fire department. But how they kind of branch it sounds like it's new for everybody. It's like, no, this is part of a search culture that's involved in the American Fire Service since the inception, basically, since we've been going and occupying the interior of these structures. And that's just how it is. But again, to negate, any search culture, if anything, we should be super hyper focused on, hey, what could they have done differently? And like, I talked to a bunch of guys, and guys will say, hey man, and for the guys listening, if you don't go to a lot of jobs or you don't have a good search culture in your department, read these articles and think about what you would do in that situation with the information that they currently had on scene. You would be surprised half the time you might do exactly what these guys fucking did. Because again, we talk about you can do everything right in this job and you might not go home. And again, that's one of those sayings I hate in the American Fire Service. Everyone goes home. I don't want to fucking lie to anybody. It's an inherently dangerous job. We said it from the beginning.
Right.
But we're all willing to accept that risk because of the payback of involving our communities, saving savable lives, property, everything under the sun. And then on top of that, be bad motherfucking ass too. So, I mean, that's just this is part of the job. None of us join this job thinking this isn't the fucking coolest thing in the world. And we all want to go to jobs. I've never met a good fireman that doesn't want to go to fucking jobs. That's just how it is.
That's the thing. I've met so many guys where I work and I've heard stories too of guys that are like army crawling on the floor because they thought they heard someone in another room, and they end up coming out with, melting shit or, having some minor burns because they pushed in a little farther because they thought that they could get to that person or whatever. That is what we signed up for. That is the oath that you're talking about.
Yeah. I mean, sorry, go ahead, Cody.
No, you're good. Go ahead.
So, I mean, part of the unprotected search too, like we talk about, cans. We talk about cans all the time. Like I was literally just having this conversation today with somebody and asked the fucking fireman, I'm like, hey, bro, pop quiz, just fucking around. Like, just, hey, pop quiz. What's the effective reach of a PW can? Right. And they're like, put a guy on the spot. He's like, fuck. Right. The first answer out the gate was 3 to 5 feet. You know why that fucking answer was? Because back in the day, right? And I know for a fact because I was trained this way, we were fucking taught to put our fucking thumb over the end of the nozzle like a garden hose, right? To distribute the spray. Well, guess what? That's probably about 3 to 5 feet. So that I'm sure when I put him in a fucking stressful situation by popping the question, that he resorted back to his lowest level of training, which was like 3 to 5 feet, fuck, right? Yeah, right. 40 fucking feet, right? So we start talking about things like, hey, is there an unprotected search? Yes. But as we start to progress in our career, and why I want to harp on, those guys had very little time on the job. And that plays a huge part when we are talking about doing unprotected searches. This is kind of where I'm trying to go down to. Did they have a can? What is your effective reach? What is your GPM, right? We all know 2.5 fucking gallons, right? But how long can I flow that continuously? 55 to 60 seconds, right? 40-foot max. Was that charged up completely? There's so many variables. And then as we're entering the structure, right? What are my conditions? Can I isolate doors? What's a hallway look like? What are my conditions? Where's my fucking thermal layer? There's so many things. And I will tell you because, dude, Cody, you and I have both, every single one of us has been that new guy. Go back to your first fucking fire, right? I couldn't tell you how many stories it was. I couldn't tell you the address. All I could tell you is all the shit that I fucked up, which was an immense amount of stuff. But as you get experience on the job, that is what you need. Is the guy searching to have to be 10, 15, 20 years on the job? No, but their boss should be at least, or a senior member should be, because there's so many different variables while we're doing, especially in an unprotected search, that we need to consider. Because there's areas like, hey, as a lot of guys don't think, shit, as I'm pushing a hallway, depending on my conditions, because I'm extending a search from a targeted or event enter isolate search, and I'm extending it, am I going to open up another bedroom just to check the conditions? Yes. Because what happens if conditions rapidly change? I want to find my quickest point of refuge. Is a 1.5 guy thinking that? I'm telling you right now, no, he's not. And that's not his fault because he's got 1.5 years on the job, period, the end. You can't learn all that information without going to a bunch of jobs or having the privilege of doing a bunch of trainings, mind jamming. It just takes fucking time. So again, with all that, I always preemptively say, like, especially when we start talking about searching ahead of our hose lines, unprotected searches, it is hyper vigilant. And we talk heavily about flow paths because that is what they got themselves into, a uncontrolled flow path that consume them. Right. We talk all the time. We can manipulate buildings for our benefit, right? Or it can hurt us depending on our knowledge. There's certain times that we will have to manipulate a flow path in a negative manner that will directly affect us and the building for a period of time until we can enter a structure, isolate a door, and then bring the building back to where it was prior to us manipulating that flow path. But again, a 1.5 guy doesn't know that stuff.
Right.
Not saying that had anything to do with the line of duty, but there's just
it played a big part in it. It played a big part in it.
It did because it was an uncontrolled flow path. But with all that said, it's just, again, we have a lot to learn. So if anybody picks anything away from that, uncontrolled flow path equals bad. This is why when we start teaching forcible entry, so we do lots of forcible entry classes out here because we had lost that art for a long period of time. The first thing we tell them to do is, first of all, don't fucking kick the door. As cool as that is, first door I ever forced in my entire fucking life, I kicked. I'll never forget this, ripping garden style fucking apartment, fire on the third floor. We go up, it's a 4-top. As soon as I go up with my lieutenant, highly respected dude, he's all like, force the door, Steve-O. I'm like, yeah. And I boot that motherfucker. It flies wide open and then flies wide closed and then relocks itself. And I go, what? I went from the highest high to the lowest low. And then my boss is telling me, kick it again, asshole, right? But with all that said, we tell guys, don't kick doors anymore, because if you blow it off the hinges, it's the same as cutting a hole in the roof without a hose line in place. It's an uncontrolled flow path. So we tell them, hey, we force our doors. We do get down low, get below the thermal layer, light fire layout, look around, right? We're looking for life anywhere in the quick vicinity, layout of the structure, fire, right? Can I see it? And then we secure that freaking door, right? And while we're doing that, now we're masking up. We're getting everything ready. Hey, bro, you good? You good? Check me. Okay, let's make a push. And we're going to work from there. But on top of that, we let the building breathe for a second. So we're seeing how the fire is reacting, right? These are all things that just take time to get to understand. And you have to be able to understand all these things to be able to do an unprotected search effectively, efficiently, and safely. One member has to at least have his head on a swivel. And again, like I said, I don't know what happened, but we're trying to learn. So, and what I'm taking away from that is, right, watch my flow paths, make sure whatever egress or ingress I create, I can secure if needed. And then again, like we tell guys on ventilation, like I teach truck company operations all the time. And it's like, we talk about crossing ridges where command can't see you. And it's like, all we have to do is, as long as you're trained on it and you feel comfortable with it, then, hey, execute it. But again, if none of those things line up, or that crew that day is super junior, dude, it might not be the day to execute that tactic, and it's okay. We can pivot. So, but it's important to have it in our repertoire to be able to do it, because when we do need to do it, it's extremely effective. It's the most efficient. And I will argue till my dying breath, it is the safest search tactic we have, period, the end, because we are picking a section of the building to go to where we believe, with the current information that we have, we believe there's a victim, instead of going through the front door with everybody else. And again, like I said, I will die on that hill.
Yeah, no, I like it, man. One of the things that popped into mind too, and this is what an old head told me when I first came on the job. He said, when you open up that door, and if all you see is fire, then just take a second and look at the room, scan the room, look at what like you said, look at what the fire's doing, because your best visible conditions are going to be when that fire's burning, and you're going to lose complete visibility as soon as you hit it with the water. And so that kind of comes with the experience too, in all aspects of taking a step back, looking at the broader picture, getting your layout as the fire's burning, seeing what the fire's doing, how the building's reacting, all of that stuff. So I really liked how you put that. The other thing that I thought of too was, like you mentioned, the can. I've got it to where now when we go on a residential alarm, or we get toned out for a house fire and it says, outlet sparking or something that doesn't initially make me think this is going to be a big fire, I will bring the water can. And that's something I've developed over time, because there's been multiple times when you walk in and it's a mattress on fire, or there's a little bit of fire coming out of the wall from an outlet, or you bust open the wall and a bunch of fire comes out, but those are things that you can handle pretty much right away, pretty effectively right away, with just that pressurized water can, right? And while they're pulling a pre-connect or setting up for bigger operations, people don't realize that you can do a lot with that pressurized water can. But to bring that back to the topic, I didn't do that until I had multiple years on the job, because no one had really said that. Hey, grab the can, because it was more of an inconvenience, right? Well, we get this out for no reason and then have to put it back. And, it's more
And
convenient if you have it.
yeah, it's heavy and it hurts my hand, right? Like we've all been there, and it sucks to keep, going through that over and over again. But you're right. But the minute you need it, and you're like, God damn it, I wish I brought it with me. So, but I'll
Right.
tell you what, that old head, I agree with that motherfucker 100%, because that was my biggest argument from day one when they did the UL study in New York City on Governor's Island, right? With the hit it hard from the yard, resetting the fire, slicers. It's been renamed 8,000 different times. It's all the same thing. You're resetting the fire from the exterior. I see fire out window. I'm going to open the bail, right? It knocks down. I'm going to close it and I'm going to go through the front door and then go to work from there. I hated that from day one. As a truck guy and as a search oriented guy, it dramatically, and you said it dramatically decreases conditions for visibility immediately. And that's why I'm like, I argued it from day one. I'm like, I understand every tactic has a place on the fire ground at a time. But the problem is a lot of departments, and the ones I was involved with also did this. It went to almost always. If you will never walk past fire, you will always squirt visible fire, right? I understand what they're trying to accomplish and the science behind it. Knocks down BTUs, makes a more survivable condition. Boom, boom, boom. Yes. But what kind of situation is that in? The UL studies, right, showed completely open compartments. Third floor, second floor, first floor. They switched it all the way around. There weren't closed doors. There was completely open hallways. I mean, it's not real life study. With all that, again, should we knock down fire from the exterior every single time? Absolutely freaking not, right? If it's a reported bedroom fire, right, and I see fire coming out of the bedroom, then yes, I do feel comfortable not doing a quick knock if it's already blown out the window, making a quick scurry up the front right up the stairs. I'm going to get a quick primer on the first floor because it's going to be clear. It's already in the bedroom on the second floor, and then I can search from there. But when we have multiple rooms off, right, or I should say a section of the house, the rear of the house is on fire, right? I don't need to start applying water immediately. I need to get a very, very quick search done, enter that structure, get to the rear where the fire is, search what I can as rapidly as I can because I'm trying to go from the most dangerous area out and then start knocking the fire from there. That's what the engine company's for, right? That is the side of suppression which needs to happen, but it should not happen pre-search if we can. And we were doing that for a long time. So again, like you said, that old head said it, and I wholeheartedly agree. Like, take a second. That's why we tell guys, get down low. What can you see? You can do all that stuff with common sense without a mask on, depending on where that thermal layer is. And again, we start talking about, thermal layers. If it's halfway there, it's on that floor. If it's all the way up, right, it's probably above me. It's slammed down to the ground. It's in the freaking basement. So just opening the door tells me a lot of information. So it's just like, take a second and like I said, let the building breathe. Let it breathe. You watch it, and then you can gather a ton of information in a very short period of time to make your job as effective and as efficient as possible. Again, yes. My personal opinion.
I don't know. Do you ever listen to Tip of the Spear Leadership Podcast?
Yes. Yep. Yeah, he's from that same region that I came from.
Okay, cool. I might actually be working with him on some stuff coming up. But one of his last guests that he had, the guy was talking about how he hates when people say every fire is different. I mean, yes, inherently there are going to be some differences, but his point was that fire is an inanimate object and it reacts the same way. If you gave it the same conditions every time, it would react the same way. Correct. So if you know that these conditions are what's present, then you can kind of know what to expect from the fire. And, like I said, yes, there are differences, but for the most part, fire is going to act the way that fire acts. It's going to take the path of least resistance. It's going to grow with oxygen. It's going to go out when you present water, given that you have the scientific ratio of the water and the BTUs, whatever. But, it's not so unpredictable that we can't start to recognize these patterns and make those decisions, right? So that plays into taking a second, looking at the bigger picture, knowing kind of if this is where it is, this is where it's trying to go, you know, and all that comes with the experience, right? Like you said, and that played into this a lot, I think, where you had younger guys with a newer technique to their department, and unfortunately that didn't play out. And even more unfortunately, now, per the article, their city is revising this policy to where they might remove this. And like you had said in the beginning, this is exactly what was going to happen, right? Where one bad thing happened, the worst thing that can happen. I'm not taking anything from that, but the worst thing that could happen happened one time, and now we're going back to we need to protect ourselves, and it doesn't matter the citizens don't matter is what I get from that. So
100%.
Because what would this article say had they grabbed someone, you know? What would this article say had they saved a life, but someone, you know, a fireman still died? Would they be heroes, or because it almost is like these guys are not, like these guys are the problem, you know? And that's no way to honor a man who gave it all doing what he said he would do.
Yeah. And I agree 100% with that. And it's sad. And like I know exactly what it would say. It would say, if they had made a grab and say hero dies after rescuing X, Y, whoever, how many, right? That's what it would say. It would say
Right.
nothing about the tactic.
Right.
Period. End. Because it was effective, because they made a grab and saved a life, and he traded his for somebody else. That's what it would have been. But I'll tell you what, the tactics, you know, the fire is so predictable. What's unpredictable is the building construction and fucking people, and then what they did to the building. So great. Let's go to Cody Miller, right? Our buddy, that was a duplex converted back to a single family dwelling, right? With all sorts of chopped up. Who knows what's fucking to code, right? Who knows if it's balloon frame? Unfortunately, we know none of that prior to entering the structure and poking holes, or unless we were lucky enough to be in that building for an EMS call or something along those lines. But yeah, exactly what you said. And like what Mike's saying, Mike Nasty says, right? Like the fire is super predictable. It's a building, and that's my opinion, the building and the people and the conditions. That's what's unpredictable. You know, it's again, you said it, and I agree. With these conditions, we know exactly what the fire does. Anyone thinks I'm lying has never been in a flash driver chamber, because I can manipulate fire in my box every day of the week. I can make it do whatever I want it to do because I understand how it lives, it breathes, it eats, it destroys, right? And then it dies. I can control all that because I understand it. It's just controlling airflow and fuel and heat. That is it. It is easy.
That's how your engine works in your car.
Yeah.
It's the same thing.
It's not. Yeah, fire, there's no serial killers in fire. There are no manic people or bipolar fires, right? It's just fire. We know exactly how it is because of the science, because of these UL studies, and I wasn't knocking on those. We have learned so much, and the science backs exactly what we're saying right now. The science and the data and the research is backing us to be aggressive for the right reasons, because it makes a difference. What we have to fight now between me and Cody right now in our careers is way different than what the old timers did in the 70s and 80s. Yes, they had a lot more jobs than we will probably ever see in our life. But guess what? It is nothing the same. The fuel loads are completely different. The heat is tremendously different. More importantly, the heat release rate is outside anything that they would ever expect. I remember I had an old head fucking like make fun of me because we were done in one bottle. So he's like, "Oh, bro, we used to go through like 4." And I'm like, yeah, and legacy construction with cotton fucking furniture, you know, like it is. And I'm like, hey, John, I'm like, fires burn hotter. He's like, bullshit, 1,000 degrees is 1,000 degrees. And don't get me wrong, he's 100% right. but we reach 1,000 degrees sometimes before we even get on scene or as we're arriving. Compared to those guys, wouldn't hit that shit till 25, 30 minutes interior. That's why they could go through so many bottles. It's just different. It is different. And that's why our tactics have to be rapidly changing. So like the constant fight that I have in my region right now is we have half the amount of guys that are like, yes, let's figure out the best, fastest, most badass way to do this job effectively, efficiently, and save lives, period, the end. And then we have another half that's like, hey, we've been doing good for 100 years. My department's been around for about that long. Hey, it's worked for 100 years. Why are we going to change anything? Because society's different. Building construction's different. And then everything we put in our house is way different. That's why we have to. Because guess what, dude? If we keep doing what we're doing, it's not going to work anymore. But the problem is by the time we realize it's not working, it's way too late, right? So we have to stay on top of that shit.
Well, the other thing too is our gear is different. Our gear is made for us to be able to push farther in these fires that are growing faster and burning hotter. And so therefore, like, you know, back in the day, they didn't wear a hood. So when their ears started tingling, they knew it was time to maybe reset. And we still do the old technique of, if you can't find it, you just put your hand up in the air and the heat will tell you where it's at. But
I don't hate that at all.
But the thing is these people, these newer guys that maybe don't completely understand or haven't seen how fire behaves, or they don't have all the experience, they've got the gear that allows them to push deeper and get in there and into these, you know, unpredictable, unsafe situations. And maybe that's where you need that guy with experience behind them saying, hey man, it's time to reset. Because I've seen this before. The gear is a
big issue.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, you don't know you're in a bad spot till you find out.
Well, I'll tell you what, this is what I mean by the gear is an issue. And this is something I never realized in my career until I became a fire instructor, as in a guy that sits in the box and fucking lights fires and talks about fire behavior, right? I do that all the fucking time. The fucking thermal saturation is what I never understood until I experienced it. The problem is exactly, Cody, what you were saying, 100% true, dude. We can push so much farther than the old heads ever could. Shit, you go back far enough, they were wearing basically raincoats, you know, rubber boots, galoshes, right, to go duck hunting, and a rain jacket. That was their turnout gear, right? But yeah, we could push way farther. But the problem is, in every guy that's been a burn instructor and that's had to go back to back freaking burn evolutions understands what I'm about to say. As soon as your gear gets saturated, it is now zero tolerant. So now the problem is yeah, you pushed into 7, maybe 800 degrees. You didn't feel it because our gear is rated to over 1,000, right? But now you've saturated yourself over this last several minutes. Now you feel everything. 300 degrees feels like 1,000 degrees. 100 degrees feels like 500 degrees. And any burn instructor has felt that. So the problem is exactly what you're saying. The gear is part of our issue. And it's not the gear, it's the education to the gear. It's like, yeah, dude, I can push. I can't feel shit. I'm good. The problem is as soon as you feel it in our gear, it's game over, because you're going to feel it everywhere because you're saturated. Sure. And then it can't disperse it. The only thing that's going to help at that point is cooler temps and time, you know?
Man, I didn't even know that, to be honest, but it makes sense. You know, I've burned my jacket in the past, and then it seemed like, and I had gotten like the sunburn, you know, 1st-degree burn, whatever. But then it seemed like fires after that, I would get hotter faster, and that makes sense. I didn't know that. So,
yeah, I mean, it's just, that's all it is. And like I said, the only reason I even know that is because I teach at a training academy. And so I'm in a burn box a lot. And I get to a point where I am like, you know, we'll do like 10 to 12 minute fuel packages. So not a lot, but as their instructor, you're taking the majority of the thermal insult from the students, and you're talking and you're teaching, and you get lost in the time, and then you go again, and your 5-minute mark feels like a 15-minute mark. And you're like, and all of a sudden you're doing a dance, and you're like, holy cow. Like, you know, you start going, man, am I a pussy now? Like, am I getting older? But Yeah, it took the guy that literally the company that installs these boxes in all these burn rooms now, that especially on the West Coast that they do, they come out to teach you like how to burn in every room and the limits and how you get smoke explosions and do all this cool shit. But he's the one that taught me that, and it was just like, well, and exactly what you said, Cody. As soon as he said it, I'm like, well, shit, that makes sense, But no one ever broke it down for me before, so. If anything, when we start talking about our younger members on the job, or let's say our less experienced members on the job, no matter what their age is, take that in consideration, especially if you're a senior fireman or a boss, take in consideration that they don't understand that thermal insult and there is a limit. Then we start feeling it. And once we start feeling it, there is no backing out at that point. You're so far deep and you've hit that threshold of heat that it's not going to work out good for you. And unfortunately, it usually doesn't. So, sure. But just something to keep in mind, at least in the back of everyone's brain.
Sure. Is this something that y'all teach your new guys at the training academy?
Yeah, we do. So we talk about it because it's funny. Like we talk about the flow paths. That's like our biggest section of fire behavior. We even replaced our flashover chamber with another one that has multiple different openings. And we don't do flashovers anymore because flashovers were just like roller coasters. It's fucking pretty. Ooh, right? You don't learn anything in a flashover. We still flash fire on kids all day long, but we really incorporate opening doors, opening passages, and watching that fire behavior because they never get a chance to experience that in real life. We are always moving and working, and we're trying to absorb those tiny little quick snapshots as we're progressing through houses to save in our long-term memory. And that's what I mean. It takes years of those little bitty pictures to start adding up to these movies. And then we can really start comprehending. And it just takes time. It takes time on the job. And it takes a lot of fires to get there. So if we have an opportunity to teach them in a controlled environment as much as we can control it, right? And talk about that thermal insult. And it's funny because our box is just how it's manufactured. We burn toes. And we talk about it because depending on how they're sitting, right, how the air funnels through the middle of the box, because they'll sit on their ass and put their feet out. It's just like, hey, this is convection. This is what we're talking about because you guys are watching the heat and the smoke pass by you. Where do you think it's going? It's going right across your boots, right? And that's why we were burning. Gear was intact, not a damaged boot, but we were getting blisters on toes of students. And because that's why, because how are they positioned? So we talk about like, everything when it comes down to that gear, how long it can get saturated for. Hey, when you come up to your buddy to tell them, hey, you searched your room, you got primary, you secured the door, whatever the scenario is, you fucking slap him on the bottle, you don't fucking hit his coat, right? Because of the moisture layer, the thermal layer, and then the air gap in between that helps protect us, how our gear actually works. So we try to educate them as much as we can. But again, we have these kids for 15 weeks out of 25 years. You can only absorb so much. But yeah, right. we try to incorporate that to at least maybe get their brains going. And again, that's just because guys in our area now, like me hitting, I'm at 19 years, just finding this out a couple of years ago, I feel fucking like naive. I feel like I've been a shitty fireman my whole career because I'm like, I wish I knew these stuff. So as I teach guys with 0 days on the job, I tell them that. I'm like, listen, man, like, pay attention because this is shit I wish I knew when I was in your spot. You are going to be such a better fireman than I ever was. And that's the ultimate goal, is to make the guys coming up to take our spots way better than us. And the only way we can do that is teach them everything we know. And then hopefully they can teach us something. I don't know.
Right. Good stuff, man. I love it. And I love the work that y'all are doing out there, trying to make everybody better and raise these guys up right, so that they can have a long, effective career. Like you said, 15 weeks out of 25 years, but it's the most important 15 weeks. And then hopefully when they go out to company, that's kind of built on, you build the foundation and hopefully they continue to build on top of that. So just kind of getting to a close here, recapping. I think the most important thing that we said was that this incident, this article in particular, was a good, solid technique that just unpredictably went wrong. It was nothing that these guys did wrong. It wasn't the technique itself. It was the situation, and this time it didn't work out, right? It doesn't mean that we shouldn't do it. It doesn't mean that it couldn't have been effective had there been, a rescue needed. And it's highly unfortunate that this happened to them, but it did happen.
I just challenge guys real quick, Cody. I challenge guys that any naysayers when it comes down to unprotected search, I challenge you. Every single line of duty death that came from a fireman that was on the hose line, and there's a shit ton out there, right? You would basically be telling me we're never going to occupy the interior of a structure again. And there are some guys out there that feel like that, and shame on them. They're not fucking firemen in my book any day. I don't even know what you would call yourself at that point. Maybe a city employee or a county employee, right? But you're definitely not a brother. With all that said, though, right, it is a very small isolated incident in a horrible situation that conditions dictated actions. They were taking the appropriate actions with the current conditions they had, and it fucking went sideways. We always say it every single time. Any given Sunday, right? Any given Sunday, you could do really good or shit can go sideways is the inherent danger of this job. And I can't beat that in people's head enough. It is a dangerous profession. Prior to entering this, you should understand that. And I believe wholeheartedly, all the brothers out there do understand that, right? But the problem is I feel like, and this is just a personal opinion, as you progress and get more time on the job, but more importantly, progress through the ranks, you start to forget that a little bit. And it comes down to either the operations chiefs allowing it, the fire chiefs, the cities, whatever dictates that department, right? Again, personal opinion, we should never, ever, ever eliminate a single tactic from our repertoire that we can pull from. We should only add new, better, more efficient ways. And then we should trust and empower our suppression officers on scene to make the correct decision with the current training they have to make the right choice for that scene, because none of us, except for that crew on scene at that time, knew exactly what they were thinking, what they saw, and what they were feeling. None of us can pretend like we did because we weren't freaking there. So with all that said, I want everyone out in the country in the American Fire Service to have every single tactic possible to pull at right now. And I want to empower them to be able to make the command decision to do it at the appropriate time. And the only way you know the appropriate time is to drill, not train. Train, understand, learn it, get it good, and then drill, right, until you can't get it wrong. That's like a niche way of saying, but drill until you're pretty fucking good, right?
Yeah. Right.
And that's, again, personal opinion.
Right. We don't practice to be perfect. We'll never be perfect.
Yeah, practice to be better, right?
Right. But no, and this is the national standard, right? VEIS. We teach it. We do it. You can go in through the front door and do an unprotected search, but they were following the national standard, and it just didn't. This time it got them. But that could be anyone, and it doesn't. Like you said, it doesn't matter if there's a handline or not. Plenty of guys die on the handline. But because there was no victim saved and these guys did something that was new to their area, now it's being frowned upon, and the city, covering their own ass, wants to say, no, you can't do that anymore. The good thing is the union has asked for a discussion on the topic to be able to freely and formally talk about the pros and cons and not just, send it to the chopping block. But it just, that is so frustrating to me. Anytime someone says that we're going to do it this way, you have to do it this way, or no, we can't do that because it's not safe, whatever. Like you said, you said it so perfectly, man. You need to have all the tools in the toolbox. And maybe this tool is for one particular instance, but I can tell you that I've used a 10 millimeter socket on a lot of different projects. You know what I mean? So You got to have the tools. You got to know what situation would be best suited for which tool or which skill in our in our line of work, but just continuing to grow and learn and drill to be better, like you said.
Yeah, and like I said, I mean, if we could take anything away from just, us talking shop and talking about this unprotected search over however long it's been, just please take away like, hey, get out of your fucking comfort zone and learn something, right? And then if you're uncomfortable or if you don't like it as a tactic, I almost guarantee you, I'm not going to say every single time, but I would guarantee about 95% of the time, the reason why you don't like it is because you're probably not fucking good at it. And if you're not good at it and you have any pride for this job, guess what? Grab your buddies and get fucking good at it, right? It's fun to figure out shit that you're like, what the hell, man? I suck. Like, I'm finally at a point in my career when I suck at something, I can laugh at myself, tell everyone, man, I suck ass, and then say, hey, man, show me how you did it because you did way better than I did. Because I'm just trying to get better at that point. Like, if we can, and I say it on my podcast all the time at the very end, which almost nobody makes it till the very end, but I literally say it. If we could leave our egos out of the fire service, imagine what we could accomplish. And I wholeheartedly feel that, because as soon as you drop your ego, and that's that feeling of, I'm going to be embarrassed, or the guys are going to think less of me. No, they're fucking not, right? It's your ego that's saying all that bullshit, right? Drop it at the fucking door, be humble. And I guarantee this job is a lot more fun when you're fucking good at it, right? So just get good at it and enjoy it. Enjoy 100%. It, you know?
Yes. Yes, man. And that's, I don't like to talk EMS on this show, but when I was going,
yeah, this is coming from a paramedic. This guy's a BLS guy, right? Hey, I'm not trying to talk medic stuff, but hey, I was doing a drug calculation the other day. Yeah. I'm sorry, Cody, go ahead.
Yeah. But when I was going through medic school, day one of medic school, the paramedic that I rode with at my firehouse, he's like, "You're the medic now. You got to make all the decisions," And we never put anybody's life in danger, but he made me make those decisions. He made me get uncomfortable. He put me in a spot that I'm not normally, doing that stuff. And I think I'm the paramedic that I am today because of that. Yeah. You're right. Get out of your comfort zone, do some hard shit, right? Everybody talks about that. Every successful person talks about that. Do hard shit every day. And the growth is in the struggle. So
yeah. And then we're all firemen listening to this, watching this, whatever it is, right? The best part about it is you're going to do stupid shit. And guess what? It's going to be good stories for the boys later on in life, right? Because when we're all fucking gone, they're not going to say how fucking badass fucking Steve-O was as a fireman or how badass fucking Cody was a fireman. They're going to talk about the stupid shit. Hey, you remember when fucking, whatever, Steve-O fucking thought he was whispering and said fucking, you cocksuckers in the middle of a fucking church or whatever. That's the kind of shit they're going to talk about. But that's how we keep the fucking brotherhood alive, right? We fuck with each other, and that's a good thing. So remember, if you're uncomfortable, you fuck up, the boys are going to make fun of you. It's because they fucking love you, and it's okay. Right. It's a good story. So, and I guarantee the next time you guys have a barbecue, if you're close, they're going to tell your old lady and you're all going to fucking laugh about it. It's just a good time. So just enjoy this craft.
Just the other day when we made when Cody and I sent you that selfie.
Yeah.
There was 5 other guys in the background going, "You want me to take the picture? You fucking gay boys,
Yeah. See ya, gay boys.
Yeah. Oh, that's cute. You want me to take the picture?
Yeah. Like, well, here, no, put your arm around, do the serious photos, right? No, I got you. But yeah, it's because they love you boys. That's why,
Right. And that's what it's all about. So, well, man, I can't thank you enough for hopping on the show. Being willing to be a part of this. Anyone who is listening or watching still, you got to go check this guy out. He is the Copper State Fireman podcast on Instagram. You can look up the Copper State Fireman on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, I believe. So check him out, give him a follow, like, share, subscribe, all that. Support this guy. You're doing great things, man. And it's guys like you that the fire service needs.
Well, I appreciate you, brother. Before you kick me off here, I got a shameless plug, right? So you talked about me, but more importantly, talk about us, right? So Copper State Fools organization here in Arizona. Check us out on Instagram, Copper State Fools. And on YouTube, we try to drop training videos all the time. Listen, read the comments if you guys want to fucking laugh at some shit on what people say. But we have a bunch of forcible entry stuff up there. We have a bunch of ladder stuff. It's all free information. Watch it, love it, hate it. We don't care, right? We've been on pause for a minute because we're trying to get different turnout gear and all this other stuff. But check us out on our training channel too, because we as an organization out in Arizona are just trying to spread the love of the job. But more importantly, if it's something you've never seen, we're happy to show you, right? And if you hate it, it's okay. If you love it, please use it and teach the next guy. That's really what we're about.
Absolutely. So go check them out too. It's invaluable information, what the fools are doing. So also 2 weeks from now, we'll drop another episode. That's going to be another great conversation. If you follow us on social media, you may have seen some of the conversations already, but it's going to be with one of my brothers, Cam Malkin, who's assigned to Engine 25B. And that dude is off the chain. He's awesome to listen to, awesome to talk to. Before wrapping this up, I do got to ask a favor of everybody listening. If you enjoyed this episode, hit the subscribe button wherever you're listening, whether it's Apple or Spotify or YouTube. It helps us keep this thing going. It also lets you know the second that a new episode drops. So, and also, if you think someone on your department or on your crew would dig what we're doing here, tell them about it. Share it with them. Tell them where they can find us. It's the easiest way to support the show, and it's the easiest way to support Engine House Designs. So this podcast is for everybody. It's not just for firemen. And eventually we're going to have some civilians on the show too. But if you're on Instagram or TikTok, give us a follow at Engine House Podcast. We're going to be posting some more behind the scenes stuff. We'll eventually have some product drops like this awesome Engine House hat that I have. And that's also, you'll get to see all the chaos of what it takes to run a podcast. So also, again, check out our sponsors, mainly the Kitchen Table Foundation at thekitchentablefoundation.org, and my business, Engine House Designs, on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube with the username Engine House Designs. You can also visit enginehousedesigns.com. Stay in the loop. We're going to be doing awesome giveaways. We got a lot of awesome projects coming up with some killer brands. So without further ado, man, thanks again. I really appreciated it. And thank you everybody for hanging out. Stay safe out there. And as always, ignite the pride.